Used this equipment in so long. So for me to utilize OBS again is really interesting. Got a lot of new key features. I'm also using the camera on my iPhone because apparently the new Mac OS allows that. So welcome everyone. It is now 2023 and this is the truth of love. I'm probably going to switch back the name of the channel because I just don't do enough diverse content to justify the truth of life, but let's talk about the truth of love. Let's talk about spiraling. So, in the case of spiraling, usually individuals that recently have gone through a breakup or have been recently triggered tend to obsess, and they tend to obsess a fair bit. And one of my criticisms for other channels that have discords is that they often don't moderate those discords in the form of controlling or moderating people that essentially are going through traumatic experiences and CPTSD or complex post traumatic stress. And in those particular cases, what people tend to do is they tend to obsess and they tend to relive the experience over and over and over. And part of that has to do with your brain's ability to live in the moment. And it's also trying to relive the experience because the last connection that you had with this person, whoever it happens to have been, was the experience of the breakup. And your brain feels that by holding on to this memory and holding on to this connection, you can somehow maintain that experience and get the positive affirmations of it. And it's funny because it's a bit of a quid pro quo in the sense that, yeah, you get some positive affirmations from it, but you also get a lot more pain from it. And if we're not careful, we will find ourselves in a position where we might let several months, or in some extreme cases, several years, be dictated by these painful experiences. And for those of you that have exited an abusive relationship in an extreme scenario, this encourages reintegration into that experience. And this is how people get caught in abusive cycles where they will end a relationship or a relationship will end, they'll exit that relationship, and then they'll jump right back into it because it's so impulsive and so addictive to try to maintain this need to feel that connection that in the end you don't realize you're doing yourself harm, and slowly, little by little, you'll find yourself more and more isolated as people get more and more tired of hearing the same stories over and over. And in extreme cases where we are in abusive situations, this can be incredibly damaging because you're essentially becoming more and more dependent on the person that's issuing the abuse. This is why it's so important for us to take time and space away from everything post breakup and to really take that time to reflect because we often forget who we were previous to the relationship and we often forget who we are post breakup because we are so obsessed with this need of wanting to reconnect with someone that we forget who we are. We forget that we bring value to the world. We forget that this person, although they could have cared for us at a specific time, uh, ends up being really detrimental to our mental and physical well-being. And it's important for us to really look at that situation and understand that this is part of the growing process. Part of the pain that you feel when you go through a breakup is the pain that you felt internally previous to the relationship. It's the gap that you felt. This is why codependent relationships are incredibly hard to break up from because we often find that for the most part, when we are in a codependent relationship, we're getting our validation and our gratification from someone else. And that might not necessarily be a bad thing, but long term, we can't maintain that sustainability. Long term, you have to be willing to get that source, get that validation from somewhere else. Otherwise, you're going to be caught in a position where you're going to just repeat more of the same if you are in a tendency to get into relationship with people who don't put your emotions, don't put your priorities at the forefront. You're going to get into a position where you're going to constantly seek out those types of people subconsciously. It's not even going to be something that you're going to be consciously aware of. And yet when we find ourselves in these positions and we find ourselves in positions where we can't really justify logically who we are and what our choices are, we tend to rationalize, we tend to justify, we tend to deflect. Oh, this person was this way because of this. Oh, this person or this situation happened because of these external circumstances. Yet we don't stop to think that maybe we're obsessing over the key criteria. Maybe we are obsessing over the experience instead of taking some time, taking some space, and stopping and saying, maybe I need to really take some time to reflect and be with myself, because if I don't take this time and if I continue down this spiral, this is going to turn into obsession and I'm going to define myself by the very foundation of this pain. This is a very dangerous place to be, because we all know these people that define themselves by their problems, the people that define themselves by drama and trauma. The idea is that if I don't have trauma in my life, if there's no drama, my life isn't worth living. My life doesn't have value. And to be in that mindset and to be in that spiral is incredibly stressful and incredibly exhausting. We often see this with workaholics where they continue to cycle and cycle and cycle, even when others tell them that they need to stop. It's the element of trying to understand what is the key trigger that's pushing you down this road. Those of you that find yourselves on this channel, find yourselves here because you are in times of pain and, quite frankly, you're desperate for answers. And I'm not here to give you all the answers. I'm here to show you the road down what your personal answer is going to be. And everyone's answer is different. Everyone's answer is going to be reflective of who they are as characters and what their childhood defined them as. Not necessarily saying that your childhood is the key definition of who you are, but it does have a big impact. So before you obsess over whether or not an ex gets you back, before you obsess over this key issue that you're spiraling over, stop and ask yourself, where do you want to be in 6 months' time? Where do you want to be in 1 year's time? And instead of looking at the key length of what it's going to take to get there, work backwards. Say, if I want to have a stable and fulfilling career in 12 months' time, what do I need to do short term to get there? If I want to be in a happy relationship, a platonic relationship, whatever it happens to be in 12 months' time, what do I have to do to get there? And slowly take steps to get to that individual goal. It's not going to be built overnight. It's not going to be a situation from one day to the next you're going to recover. It's going to be a slow and gradual process. And this is my key criticism of the industry, especially on YouTube, because there's a lot of false hopes sold to people for the sake of clicks, for the sake of views. There's a lot of false prophets. And it's important for you to distinguish between those false prophets and distinguish between those that legitimately want to help you. The idea of what defines a good coach from a bad coach or a good mentor from a bad mentor is not intent, it's action. What action are you willing to take after this video? What action are you willing to take after watching someone else's video? The idea there is that someone who could be a mentor to me could be very well toxic to you. It's up to you individually to determine who you should follow, and more importantly, how you should spiral. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would ask that you hit the thumbs up icon below. For those of you that haven't subscribed, I would greatly appreciate it.